Hey guys, it's Abby and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to show you a tutorial on how I do name tags and how I letter them using the Procreate app on my iPad Pro. So let's get right into it. So for context, I decided to hand letter, well, not really hand letter because we're using the iPad, so digitally letter. So we reached our 100 patron goal, yay, last October 31st. And as part of that goal, I wanted to create name tags for some of my patrons as an exclusive reward. So I thought of documenting this process and share with you all the technicals that I did in order to create these name tags. Well, first of all, it took a lot of time, but apart from I really enjoyed the process, I haven't been doing a lot of lettering these days, so it's great to just, get back right into it and use it as a creative exercise for me as well. And it was also a little test of my patience and focus. I tend to be really distracted with work, so being able to do that one thing for like a good couple of hours is always great to be more intentional about the things that I do. To start off, we'll start with the basics. So for the basics, the app that I'm using is Procreate. I think this is the 5th version. I am using an Apple iPad Pro. I think this is the 3rd generation iPad Pro. This is 12.9 inches and I'm using the Apple Pencil, which is the 2nd generation. So I got these in 2018. I'm not the most techie person out there, I keep saying that, but I'm pretty happy with these devices that I'm using at the moment. I also have a screen protector that is matte. My friend gave it to me, so I don't really know the brand, so it just makes it have more resistance, especially when doing lettering where I really need to have this textury, papery feel. I feel like it's really helped me be more in tune with my iPad as a drawing device. In terms of creative direction, it was really easy for me to figure out what I wanted to do for these name tags. So of course I needed the name, and then I also needed a template. So actually, a little background on my Patreon tiers. So I've been thinking a really long time on what tier names I would do, and I decided to make it like types of people. So actually my tier names are the rookie, the dreamer, the maker, the artist. I also have the scholar, the visionary, and because of that, I created name tags before that said hello, I am the artist, or hello, I am the rookie, or hello, I am the maker. And that really made a lot of sense because when I'm gonna do these name tags, of course I have to have this sticker label where I think it's a pretty popular thing that you'll see online. It's hello, I am blank. So this one says hello, I'm. So with that, I really established that would be the overall image. And I also had an idea where I guess my patrons would be sharing this on social media, so I decided to put it into a square format. So I used, I think, this 2048 by 2048 pixels. It's one of the templates that is offered on Procreate. With regards to the color palette, I asked my patrons to fill out a form to write in their names and also the color palette that they wanted. And being the vintage color-loving person that I am, my options were actually vintage color scheme, monochrome, which is black and white or gray, and pastel color. I know that a lot of my patrons love pastel color, so I also decided to add that into the mix. And apart from that, I added an option where they can choose whatever design that they wanted and also what font. So the font options were either serif, sans serif, or script, or there's a wild card which says you decide, Abby, because usually what I do is try to play around with different font styles, and that really helped me, experiment more and play around with these names and how they're spelled. And last but not the least, in terms of the design, I asked them if they wanted stars, hearts, plants, or patterns. Some also opted for none. So these were the starting points of my design. So basically, I've given them an option to choose so that I personally have a brief, because not having a specific direction in terms of what I want to do is going to make it really, really hard for me to actually just do it. So with that, I settled on to start lettering. It was a very fun experience. I guess also a little hand exercise. Drawing on the iPad is not easy as it seems, and it's definitely not easier than drawing on paper using a pencil and a paintbrush. It's technically the same thing. I would say it's a bit harder because it's a bit more eye straining because you're looking at a screen and it takes a lot of focus and time and effort. But I generally enjoyed it, so I'm going to share with you a quick interface and what you will expect from my iPad. So my iPad setup is pretty straightforward. You have the Procreate app, and what I like to do is I have a group where I have the full layer of the name tag template, and then I make a separate layer for each of the names depending on how many names are I going to use for that specific file. So I try to divide them accordingly just so the file doesn't get too overloaded. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I guess just like a personal preference. And with the colors, I actually have a lot of color palettes on my iPad. Most of them have been like from previous projects or like my personal brand colors or colors I want to experiment with. So with the vintage colors, it was really relatively easy to just pick out some colors from this like warm vintage collection that I made a couple of months back. And then for pastels, I just expounded on this pink toned collection that I once had used, and then I added a bit more pastels like aqua, purple, light cream colors, and then I decided to just play it from there. I'm not really structured with regards to how the fonts would come out. What I find that was really interesting is in terms of playing around with the letter forms, it depends also on the spelling of the name and the length of the name. So that really helped me, get a good grip of how I want to letter specific elements. And with my brushes rather, I've been really lenient. Like, I've always been using the 6B pencil ever since it came out, ever since I got the Procreate app. It's generally my favorite. What I like to do is I use the streamline function to adjust and control the strokes. That way, if I need more like leverage to make it a little bit more smooth, it's able to do that, and I find it really, really helpful for me. Apart from that, I also have a list of brushes that I highly recommend from DesignCuts. I also have a free brush bundle if you want to check it out. It's also going to be linked down in the description. But generally, I really like pencil tips and also brush tips because as I come from a background of hand lettering, it was really hard to pick out a perfect brush that would sort of be similar to my brush pens and how I letter using a brush pen. I created a lot of different styles. Like with script, I just didn't go with brush script. I also tried out mid-century style, retro style script, and it was a great way to just basically experiment. Experimenting is a really crucial factor if you want to letter a lot of names like this. Imagine these are like over 100 names, and I just didn't want every single name to be the same because then, where's the individuality? I want it to be different. I wanted to have a unique experience for everyone. So I decided to do just that and decided to play around with a lot of the elements. Some tips that I highly recommend if you want to try lettering these kinds of things, like, if you want to letter for your friends or, you want to create hand lettering or like just maybe for practice, is to really experiment with color. Color and texture are really fun variables when it comes to designing these things. As someone who's been doing hand lettering for many, many years by hand, I actually enjoy the part where, when you do digital lettering, you can add a layer before the actual name and then you can like color it in with different colors, overlap the textures. These are all fun ways to actually add more dynamic and character to your names. So make sure to keep experimenting. Also, I learned Procreate mostly on my own. I did watch a lot of tutorials, but I also learned it by doing. I'm a person who likes to learn by doing. And it's been a really liberating experience for me because that way I would have never discovered this particular color or this particular style, this particular method, and it really, really helps to have that open mind when it comes to digital lettering. I will share more of these types of tutorials and mini workshops over at my Patreon next year because next year I'm going to be making it more of a full-on webinar/workshop. I'm adding a new tier for that where every month we gather and tackle these types of softwares, you know, from how to make a website, how to do copywriting, how to use specific apps, I'll be helping you and holding your hand along the way. So I hope to see you on Patreon. And while you support me on my creative journey, I will also be supporting you. So thank you again so much to my patrons for making this happen. I did not expect to get 100 patrons in my first like 4 months. It's been crazy. It's been one of the things that has given me a lot of pride and joy. So thank you to all my patrons. If you want to be a patron and join their community, make sure to pledge today at patreon.com/abc. This has been Abby, and if you have any more questions on Procreate or anything about digital lettering or lettering in general, just leave your comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I'll see you guys next time. Always be creating. Bye!